In this episode of How It Really Works, we're gonna dive into ferries, the boat that you don't care about, but we do. Here you can see the trucks lined up. They are all really impatient, 'cause they have anime to watch at home. But the ferry doesn't really give a care, so it is gonna go about as slow as it takes to make a new Avatar movie. Here we sped up this footage because our editor was playing around with the tools on his first day. Upon spotting the Pop-Tarts, the ship opens its mouth to take in the delicious snacks. Before long, the ferry begins barfing up trucks because it doesn't know what flavor of Pop-Tart it was seeing. Then, the Karens who are too impatient to wait for the ferry to depart get off early because they are just gonna see how much a plane ticket cost. As the trucks arrive at the ferry, they pass through a toll prior to make sure they have pot on them. And if that sounds like a typo in the script, I don't really know, but I'm gonna assume it's not. Then, the last truck gets on board the ferry. This truck paid extra, so it's gonna get special priorities, because that's how the world works. Then, this person on the bridge is gonna do what we all do and read the disclaimer before throwing it in the garbage. The captain grips onto the throttle, not doing anything, and somehow magically making the ship reverse, because once again our editors don't know how to make a video. Then, the passengers can enjoy some scenic views of the mountains. This is definitely a trip to remember, not because of the beautiful mountains, but because one day this will all be underwater because of global warming. The captain may be pushing the throttle, but that's not where the power is contained. That's all in these big boy engines over here. How do they not rev up entirely and explode? Well, it's because a coolant liquid pumped into the engines with a mixture of coolant, salt, shame, therapy, water, wine, and nothing else I mentioned except for coolant. As Karen here drives the ship, she looks at the spinning disc at the front of the thing. What this is doing, I really don't know, but it most likely has something to do with ships. The radar works by using these spinny things that spin around faster than everyone when they watch this video. However, some like to use paper maps in case Russian hackers get any ideas. As passengers witness the world before global warming, we might as well mention these big cylinders up here. What are they for? Well, when they deploy into the water, they are supposed to inflate. However, they only work 90% of the time. And, funny enough, if the law didn't require them, the company would not give a care about your safety, and they most likely would not be on the ship. Meanwhile, in the control tower, this guy gets to watch all of the very ugly ferries, let's be honest, go in and out of the harbor. Here you can see the mill bay. Why is this ship so small? We really don't know, but most people say it has to do with the previously mentioned pot and what BC Ferries decides to spend their money on. And we're finally back to the spirit of Vancouver Island. Here you can see many amazing things, like down below, like with that dock with an outboard motor. After essentially turning into a chihuahua and vibrating for ages, you can get a brief glimpse of the dock with the outboard motor. And as the Mission Impossible music plays, the cars race out of the ferry. They even have a little video camera to capture all those who aren't going fast enough, and then give them a little bit of a nudge. As the car goes into the ferry, the car deck ends up becoming darker than my sense of humor, despite the fact that there's lights in here that really don't work. As the charge of the ferry increases, the lights get brighter, and there's finally light. And we're back to sailing out at sea. I don't really exactly know what's gonna happen next, so let's just get on the next part. Now we move on to a smaller ferry, because we can't find anything else interesting to fit in this episode. BC Ferries has many routes. Fascinatingly, they're all around BC, and they use ferries. BC Ferries has many routes, stretching from Vancouver, Victoria, Horseshoe Bay, Prince Rupert, and the depths of Haida Gwaii. As you can see, some ferries are bigger and some are smaller. In this instance, the one we're riding on is really smaller, because not a lot of people like to take this ferry. This makes the ferry depressed, officially making this the most relatable ferry in the world. As the ferry approaches full speed to the marina to mimic the Queen of Oak Bay disaster, she decides she doesn't feel like it today, and turns away for the ramp. This is a common practice because BC Ferry's captains just kinda wanna get into trouble sometimes. Upon hearing of the captain's malicious intentions, all the cars race off the ferry. And once again, we're not going to follow this ferry for another voyage, because we already saw a previous one. Next we move on to this ship. This ship is supposed to be the largest ferry boat in the world, but I'm pretty sure that this is not bigger than some like Estonia or Stena Line ferries, but this show doesn't get its facts right, so we're just going to call it the biggest ferry boat in the world. Much like a whale shark, it waits around and the food just gets into its mouth. And just like a whale shark as well, they occasionally get hit by other boats. If you don't get that reference either, then why are you watching this video? Here we go to the car deck of this coastal class ship. To be honest, this just looks like the same car deck from the Spirit of Vancouver Island, and I really hope that they did not just reuse the footage. But this is a cheap show, so I would not be surprised. Then, as the ship pulls away, the crew look at the door being open, because apparently they love the Herald of Free Enterprise disaster. Now this door, it does close eventually, but we're not going to show that, just because we like to imagine something bad happened. As we see this, actually really nice footage of the ship plowing through the waves, we are then treated to a view that the deck above, which we thought was the bridge, is actually not, and the deck below is the bridge. We were lied to, and this makes the ship look way uglier than it should. As we go here, we see why these engines don't explode. It's cause there's a mixture of coolant, salt, shame. Oh, you know what, I'm not gonna go through this again. As we walk through the insides of this ferry, we can see a gift shop with everything besides ferry models, because this gift shop does not know what a good gift shop should be. As we look out the windows of this beautiful ferry, we are then treated to a small kids' playing room. In this playing room, they have their own boat, but it is admittedly smaller than the real boat, just to remind the kids that the adults got it a lot better, as well as the teenagers, as you can see, because they've got this huge arcade. And then we're treated to an outside view of the ferry. Pretty much no one is on deck because Canada is literally always ice and cold, so no one would want to go outside. As we reach the end of this episode, we can see the ship being illuminated. Funny enough, on the Titanic, this color of lights for fireworks would have meant SOS, yet no one is coming to help the ship, despite it obviously forcing itself into the pier, probably gashing open a hole. Anyways, donate to my Patreon, join my Discord, and bye.